Welcome back, Magic Tribe. Merry Christmas Eve to all of you, and I hope you are enjoying your time off. We are here today to do something very, very special. So, those of you who have been following the Conversations with God series will be a lot more excited about this than most. And those of you who have come over from the Higher Self channel via the videos The Little Soul in the Sun and The Little Soul in the Earth also will be really excited about this too. Hello, Jessica Lynn. Welcome. I managed to get my hands on one of only 222 signed copies by Neil Donald Walsh and his wife, M. Claire, of his children's book, Santa's God. And we're going to read it to you all here live today. Now, mind you, little Rosie just opened this, so she hasn't got a chance to look at it either, and neither have I. The only one who's read this book so far is my husband, but it has a very, very special inscription on the inside for little Miss Rose that tells her that she's very, very loved. Okay, so you gonna help me, Rose? Yeah. We gotta hold this up, okay? Can you hold it up for me? Okay, everybody. I'm gonna try my best to show you the pictures, and then we're gonna read the book to you, okay? So, oh my goodness, we'll flip past the inscription again. Here is the titles page, and it is Santa's God. And it's a children's fable about the biggest question ever, okay? Now, here is the first illustration, and these are done by M. Claire, Neil Donald Walsh's wife. She's a pretty awesome poet. So we're going to just turn this around really quick so that we can read the words, and then I'll show you the next illustration on the next page, okay? So, it was the middle of the night, not just any night, but Christmas Eve, and Melinda was at the window, searching the sky and trying as hard as she could to stay awake. She was determined that this year she was not going to fall asleep. This year she was going to see him if it was the last thing she ever did. She sounds very determined. Okay, there's the next illustration. And it says, so naturally, her ears perked up when she heard a thud. She ran down the stairs, and there he was, right in front of her, Santa Claus. Here's the next one. And it says, I knew you were real, she said, a lot louder than she wanted to. I just knew it. Well, of course I am, Santa chuckled as he turned around to look at her. He didn't even seem surprised that Melinda was awake. Want to come on down the stairs and have a nice visit? Wow, yes, Melinda giggled, and she scampered over to give Santa a great big hug. Hello, Wendy. And the next illustration. And says, you act like you were expecting me, she said. I was, Santa replied. You were? I sure was. Every year I pick out one child to talk with when I visit all the children's homes. And this year I picked you because I knew you'd be waiting up for me. Really? Melinda asked. How did you know that? Oh, sweetheart, Santa knows everything. I even know what size slippers your grandma wears and what color she likes. With that, he gave Melinda a great big wink, pulled the beautifully wrapped box from his sack, and placed it under the tree. You know my Grammy's favorite color? Melinda was amazed. How could you find out stuff like that?
Santa smiled.
Santa smiled. Remember, I've known Grammy since she was your age. Turn the page, Rose. And our next illustration. It says, Melinda thought about this for a long while as Santa placed more gifts next to the first one. And finally, she said, Santa, do you really know everything? Yep, he replied. For instance, I know you have chocolate chip cookies, my favorite kind, and a glass of milk for me. But you forgot to put them out. You left them in the kitchen. Oh my goodness, you're right, Melinda cried. I'll go get them right now. And the next one. When she returned, all the gifts had been placed under the tree, and Santa was sitting in the big comfy chair by the fireplace. Thank you, sweetheart. I'm really going to enjoy these. I'm sure I won't leave a single one behind. Oh, please do, Melinda pleaded. Please leave just one behind. What an unusual request, Santa said. It's so I can know that you were really here, she explained. It'll be our secret signal. Santa's face lit up. Why, what a perfectly yummy idea. Turn the page. The next illustration. You want to read it? Go ahead.
Then Melinda said, So if you know everything, can I ask you any question at all? Any question at all, Santa nodded. Melinda thought of every question she'd ever wanted to ask of Santa Claus. How do you get to every house in the world in one night? She suddenly blurted. Simple. I stop time, he replied. Oh, Melinda said, almost to herself. I never thought of that. She then asked, how do you get down the chimney when you are so big and the chimney is so small? Easy, he said. I make myself smaller. Oh, Melinda said again. I never thought of that either.
Okay. There's the next picture. And it says, but what if the house doesn't have a fireplace? She wanted to know. How do you get in? Why, then I just use the front door, Santa chuckled, although it's not nearly as much fun. Okay, tell me this, Melinda said. How do reindeer fly? They dine on a magic soup that Mrs. Claus prepares. Where's the North Pole? Way up north where there is so much snow it is entirely hidden. How many elves are there? Not as many as people think. They're very rare. Here's the next illustration. I love that one. How many children are getting coal in their stocking this year because they were bad? None, says Santa. None? Melinda could hardly believe it. Nope, not one, Santa replied, and then he explained. You see, Melinda, there is no such thing as a bad boy or girl. Sometimes children do things that they wish they hadn't done, just like adults, but that doesn't make them mad. It just means they forgot themselves for a moment. Santa certainly had some good answers, and Melinda was almost out of questions, but then she remembered the most important question of all. It was a question she'd always wanted answered. Santa, she began, who's the real God? Santa again.
Santa almost dropped his cookie. My goodness, he said. That's a pretty big question for such a little person. It could be the biggest question ever. What is it that made you ask Santa that?
It's a good question. And there is the next illustration. And it says, "My friends dared me to," Melinda explained as she plopped right into Santa's lap. "When I told them that I was certain I was going to see you tonight, they all said, 'Yeah, sure. If you want us to believe that you actually talked to Santa, you have to ask a question that only Santa can answer. Then tell us what he said.'" "I see," said Santa, stroking his beard. "So I'd have thought I'd ask you about God, because some of the kids in my school pray to Allah, and some to Jehovah, some to Jesus, and some to Krishna, some to Yahweh." Her voice got real soft. "Santa, which God do you pray to? Which God is the real one?" "Who is Santa's God?" The illustrations on these 2 pages are just little tiny Santas. It says, "Santa had been asked many questions by many children in many places for many years, but no one had ever asked him a question quite like this. So Santa had to think for a moment about how to answer, and then he remembered something that he had seen above the fireplace when he first got to Melinda's house. "What's over there on the mantelpiece?" he asked. "That's my daddy's collection of Santa Clauses." Melinda smiled proudly. "He's got one from almost every country in the world, and now they're all over the house. On the mantle, on the windowsills, everywhere." "Can you tell me about them?" Santa asked. "Sure," Melinda asked. "But what about the question I asked you?" "Oh, I'll answer that for sure," Santa promised. "But I'm just curious about these little statues." Then he pointed to one and said, "Who is this?" "Oh, that's St. Nicholas," Melinda chirped. "He's one of my favorites. He was a bishop in a city called Myra, which is now named Demre." She paused. "That's in Turkey," she added. "My, you sure know an awful lot about him," said Santa, who was very impressed. "My daddy tells me the story of each Santa every Christmas," Melinda explained, "and I've practically memorized them. Anyway, Nicholas was so nice to so many people that they made him a saint. He was very generous and gave gifts to people in need. They say he even performed miracles. And all of the miracles had to do with giving gifts." "And this one here?" Santa asked, looking at another little statue. "That's Pierre Noel. He brings presents for all the boys and girls in France." And then Melinda pointed to other Santas one by one. "And that's the Weihnachtsmann from Germany. And that one is Dutch and is called Sinterklaas. And then there's Julmanden from Denmark. And Swedi Mikołaj from Poland. Father Christmas from England. Samichlaus from Switzerland. And..." "Whoa," said Santa. "You really do know them all." Melinda beamed. "Now this one is Santa Kurosu from Japan, Julupuki from Finland, and Santi from Ireland, Sveti Nicola from..." Santa couldn't stop himself from interrupting. "There are so many," he exclaimed. "Yes," Melinda agreed. A puzzled look crossed Santa's face. Then he said slowly, "How do you know who to send your Christmas list to? Which one is the real Santa?" Melinda just sat there for a moment, not knowing what to say. The next one. Then She jumped up quite suddenly because the greatest idea had just come to her. Imagining herself as Santa, she exclaimed, "They're all the real Santa Claus. They're all you. You just dress differently and call yourself by different names when you're in different places." Said Santa. "Now why do you suppose I would do that? Why not just look the same and have the same name wherever I go?" "Because," said Melinda. "Because why?" asked Santa. "Because you want the people in all those different countries to know you when they see you. So you dress just the way they do, and they give you a name they like, and you say, 'Wonderful, call me whatever you want.'"
Santa just stood up and looked down tenderly at the little girl in front of him. Then finally he said, "You are right, Melinda. That's very wise of you. And you are exactly, perfectly, absolutely right." Melinda felt very proud and very happy. Santa had asked her a really hard question, and she had figured out the answer all by herself.
And then the next one.
"Now I have something special to tell you," said Santa, and he bent down and whispered in her ear. "Would you like to know what Santa said?"
Would you like to know what Santa said, everyone? I think we need to know what Santa said. Because Santa said,
"It's the same way in God." "Wow," said Melinda quietly. She had never thought of that for sure.
Now, maybe it was all the excitement at actually meeting Santa, or maybe it was all those questions and answers, but just then Melinda became very sleepy. In fact, she could hardly keep her eyes open. "Perhaps it's time for you to go to sleep now," Santa suggested. "After all, you have a busy morning ahead." Then he gently picked her up and carried her to her bedroom. "Good night, honey," Santa said, tucking her in. "Night-night, Santa. Thanks for talking with—" But that was all Melinda managed to get out before she fell fast asleep.
When Melinda awoke, she raced to the living room, and there were all the gifts, neatly arranged under the tree for the entire family. Everything that happened during the night now seemed so fuzzy to her. Did Santa really come? Or did Mommy and Daddy put those presents there?
Melinda quickly turned and looked to the table next to the big comfy chair. There was the cookie plate and the milk glass, both empty. Empty? Not a single cookie there, just crumbs. No cookie left for her, no special signal. Melinda almost broke into tears. "Mommy and Daddy came down and ate the cookies just to make it look like Santa was here," she muttered to herself. Melinda had never been so sad in her whole entire life. Then she happened to glance at the mantelpiece and she noted something strange. The Santa from her country was not there. Her eyes darted frantically around the room, and then she saw it. The Santa statue was nestled on a branch in the middle of the Christmas tree, and there, leaning up against the statue, was
1 chocolate chip cookie.
Now, isn't that the sweetest story ever? So, guys, there you have it. It doesn't matter what your God looks like or calls himself. They're all the same thing. We want to let you know that we here at Magic Mom Ministries are joined with all of you today and every day in unity, love, and appreciation for the life that we have been given by life and Source itself. Enjoy your day with your families today, everyone. You never know how much time we get here. Let's try not to waste any more of it than we have to. So, from us here at Magic Mom Ministries to all of you and your families at home today, we're wishing you a happy, safe, and love-filled holiday season. And I can't wait to see you all on Tuesday morning when we will be back with a magic love note, and it should be good. We'll be kicking off the rest of 2018 and looking at what 2019 has to bring to all of us as well. Remember, everyone, we love you, and I can't wait to hear about all of your guys' joyful holidays. Bye, everybody. Remember, be good.